Sounds good to me.
You know what else is a challenge?
This show. Yeah.
Blizzard's public opinion.
Oh, there you go. Oh, a hint as to what we might discuss
A hint as to what we're about to talk about.
Oh, baby. All right. Well, here goes. Yeah. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us. The show will begin in, make sure it's recording, in 3, 2, 1.
I'm Jeff Kaplan, and you're listening to The Instance.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Instance. This is The Instance, episode 640. 640, yo. That's not a special number, is it? It's just a number. It's no big deal.
No, it's just, that's not even, not quite a 720, so you're not even a skateboarding trick.
Nope.
If you did a 640, I don't think you landed well on a skateboard.
What was the old arcade game, though, that had 720? That's what that was called. And I don't know if you ever saw that or played it. It's way old. We're talking like late 80s. But an Atari made it. But I probably put more quarters into 720. 720 degrees, I guess, is the total name of the game.
It had the degrees symbol. I'm actually unfamiliar with this game, so I'm Googling it in the background.
You should look at it. It's cool. It's like this.
What amazing cabinet art.
Oh,
what a cool cabinet, too. It was like wide.
It was big and wide. Yeah, it took up like half the arcade, it felt like. But what was cool about it is it's where the phrase skate or die, at least in video game terms, was sort of coined. So you'd walk past this.
I thought that came from skate or die.
Well, I did too. Well, maybe it did. But this was my connection to that phrase, like 100%. If you say skate or die, I think of that game. And when you'd walk past the arcade and even nobody's in there playing it, you know, arcade machines would make noises to kind of like draw you in if nobody was playing them. And so the Sinistar guy would go or whatever. I think it was Gauntlet would go, had like a guitar riff, I think was that did. It was like,
Gauntlet had that. They had like essentially was a preview for Dragon's Lair every time you would walk past that.
Yep. And I love that stuff. Well, in this case, the voice would boom and go, skate or die, which is in the game too. But it would just kind of randomly yell it, and I used to think that was pretty rad.
Oh, 720 did have an NES port. I remember playing this.
See, the generations.
I didn't have it, but my neighbor did, and I remember multiple times I would like lend him my Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt split, and he would lend me 720.
Yeah, see, even the Gen X reaches back to the millennial in a sweet exchange of video game concepts.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Very nice.
What's that docu-series on Netflix, High Score? I just started watching that. That's not terrible.
It's not terrible. It's okay.
I thought it was going to be bad. That is a watchable series.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff missing. They don't talk about Zork, and they should have in that text adventure episode.
Yeah, it's very truncated. They're trying to like kind of jam a generation into an episode.
Yeah, kind of bums me out a little bit. But it was cool, and I think they could do more. And I wouldn't mind like a deep dive into modern MMOs like WoW and other stuff. Like that would be a cool thing.
Oh, I would totally watch offshoots of it, like High Score, MMO.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Oh, my gosh. The other thing I was thinking of today that I just said it on Twitter, I'll say it again. I am on board, 100% totally here for all of these video game to animated series things that are happening. So I absolutely love the Castlevania business. There's a Splinter Cell game or a Splinter Cell anime coming. There's something based on Far Cry. I love this stuff. I'm here for it.
I don't think of myself as a raging Splinter Cell fan, but I saw the trailer for that this morning.
Yeah.
And I want to watch the hell out of that.
Heck yeah, dude. I just think that
the Dota one didn't do much for me. I'm not big in the Dota lore, but my friends of mine who are loved it to pieces. So I'm very ready for something like that to come out in a universe that I'm bought into.
Yeah. Give me Uncharted. Give me freaking Aloy and what the hell, Horizon Zero Dawn. Give me that story.
Give me Diablo, man. They did those Diablo 3 shorts.
That's supposed to be happening.
Diablo. They've got that one with like all the archangels and they're fighting the Diablo, and it looked so good. Like, go. Where is it? Get it out.
It's supposedly happening. Every time I see these announcements, I just think, well, where's Blizzard? They've got some of the best IP for this sort of thing, and Netflix seems to be in a mood for it, and they're doing well. That new He-Man looks amazing. I can't wait for it. Like, we're coming.
Oh yeah, man. Oh god, we could. Can this be the show, man? I did not grow up with He-Man. It was in syndication when I was young and my friends were into it. It was this weird show that if you asked me why I wasn't allowed to watch it, I couldn't explain it to you, but it was like one of these, it's the earliest thing I remember my parents being like, no, you can't watch that.
Do you know what it was for? Did they ever say like, oh, it's too violent or anything, or no, they never said?
I have no clue, dude. I watched Alien with my dad when I was 7. I do not understand. Like, Dad, if you're listening, I know you're not. What the H, man?
Yeah. Yeah, because He-Man is objectively stupid. Like, it's not good.
Yeah,
but it existed at a time where who cares? It's great, and I can't wait to revisit it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I don't know why. So anyway, because of that, I don't really have an attachment to it. That new series looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. And
like,
the cast
I
is
really want to see it.
Yeah, you got your Mark Hamill as Skeletor, which is a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of people.
Which I don't know. I feel like that says something. Yeah. Obviously, I'm self-aggrandizing a bit, but I feel like it says something when me, someone who like has seen like maybe 15 minutes of a single He-Man episode, is excited for the relaunch. Because I could easily see that being like, oh, they're just trying to cash in on nostalgia. I don't have nostalgia for it, and I want to watch it.
Yeah, I do too. What's funny is that show was originally set up as a way to cash in on toy sales. That was its entire existence, was to compete with Kenner and the Star Wars figures. And so they made a show to support the sales of toys, and it worked. And it was shitty.
I watched that on The Toys That Made Us.
Right. That's
really interesting information, but is terribly made.
Yeah, it's not great. It's bad, low production value, but I love the
can't
stuff.
get over the voiceover guy's voice.
Look, it's a relic of cable television that I don't really want in my streaming world. So
you don't have to have it, but you kept it.
It's not great. All right. Hey, a few things going on before we get to our big topic this week. And I mentioned in a very brief, like 30-second holder episode thing that I posted up last week that there were some changes coming to the show format-wise. That's still true, and we're still not exactly ready to detail them. But I think today you'll get a bigger taste for kind of where we're headed. In that regard.
My favorite thing is I'm gonna let them know how the sausage is made. Is you and I had like a long talk, and we were like, yeah, this is where we're going. And then I get the Johnson Poland text today going, yep. I've had an epiphany. Yep. I'll let you know later. Yep. And I'm just like, I thought we already had an epiphany, Scott.
I know we had, and we did. We had our sweet shared epiphany on Monday, but I have added epiphanies. I have epiphanies on top of epiphanies. You might say they're exponential epiphanies. And I will describe them to both you and everyone eventually everyone, you first, of course. But I just it hit me today like a ton of bricks. I got it figured out.
Please let everyone else know before me. Somehow make it that I'm the last person to know. I think that would be legitimately a challenge.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty funny.
I do follow you on social media, so.
Good point. All right, couple quick things. My nephew actually told me about this first, and then I saw the news about it. Overwatch 1's getting crossplay and is in beta now. That means
they made a big deal of the global battle net.
Oh yeah, it's all part of that too. Yeah, that's a good point. So when Overwatch announced crossplay, I just thought, well, it's about freaking time, you guys. Like everybody and their dog, if they make a shooter today, or even yesterday, or a couple years ago, these shooters are crossplay worldwide, not just in other regions, but if a guy's on a Switch and he's playing the game, a guy on a PC will see that dude and play him on a Switch. I don't know if this was pushed forward more by things like Fortnite or whatever, but clearly this paves the way for 2 being a much more open and less region-locked game, which is good, I think. Right? I mean, when you play Overwatch 2, when you do, because you will, I mean, you may not, Garrett may not dive in and make it his favorite game of all time. We already kind of know where you stand on Overwatch overall, but you're going to play it. And when you do, you'll be able to play your friends in Australia or wherever they might be,
I legitimately love crossplay in Call of Duty. It's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's how it should be. I was skeptical. I'll admit it. I wasn't sure about this brave new world where a kid on his iPad
now I'm wondering,
play me.
Wait, now I'm thinking to myself, Call of Duty has crossplay, right? Or is it just I'm seeing controllers because people on PCs are using controllers?
No, they are actually doing crossplay. So if you play Warzone, you see the icons. Those are those represent what platform they're playing on, not what controller they're using.
That's right. Yeah. Because I always focused in on like the controller icon, but yeah. Because if you remember when Warzone dropped, you and I were both playing it, and it took me like a good 3 months to stop using controller because I'm like, no, it's Call of Duty. I play with the controller. That's how I play this game.
Sure. And you finally stop doing that? You're now full keyboard and mouse on that when you play?
Yeah, I haven't played in a while, but yeah, it eventually kind of 3 months into Warzone, I wanted to not die as much. Well,
when you fire up all 200 gigs of that again, let me know how that's playing.
Yeah. When I get a dedicated hard drive for it, I'll let you know how it goes.
I guess it's a little. I shouldn't say because it's a little smaller than it was. They stripped the single player out, but it's still pretty big. Still pretty big. Yeah. It's just
still
one of those
ridiculous.
games.
Yeah, I
will say this though,
Call of Duty to hit me last year like it did, but that was a right game at the right time for me last year.
They hit or they did put in NVIDIA DLSS support, which not even for people with really high performing systems running everything on Macs, that particular tech is freaking magic. Like, talk about ray tracing all you want, talk about MIPS and bump maps and projections and all the other shit that makes a GPU great and all your crypto you're getting out of it or whatever. But this one feature, this DLSS freaking AI assisted resolution business is amazing. Every game that supports it has blown my mind. So if you haven't fiddled with that and you have an NVIDIA card, a GTX card capable of DLSS, turn it on because it'll change your life, including that game.
I'd like to find an NVIDIA card. That'd be nice.
It'd be nice if you could find that and any of the consoles that we'd like or anything else in our chip shortage world we live in now. Also yesterday, Overwatch's Aaron Keller was on the Games Fest thing with Jeff Keighley, their little kickoff yesterday. I did a whole commentary track for it with John Jagger. That's up on the core feed if you want to check that out. It's just kind of us talking over things and having opinions. But they showed the most boring thing ever, skin and model tweaks. It was so boring.
Thank you so much for me not having to be the Overwatch.
It was really boring, and I really like Aaron Keller. I want to put that out as the record. I think he is the perfect guy to pass the torch to. When Kaplan left, he is a really nice human being. I got to talk to him for a long time at a BlizzCon a couple of years ago. Amazing dude, and I think the game's in good hands because he's there. But having him come out and just show 2 new models with some skin tweaks. Not even new models. It's just like, here's Baptiste and here's, what's her name, Sombra, and here's some slight tweaks to them and why they're more complicated than others or whatever. That is cool as like a quick dev update on a tweet or something, but a weird place to showcase it on this stage thing. So I kind of felt bad for Aaron because I didn't feel like it was maybe his idea to do this. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just read it in his eyes.
Yeah. All right. So I've got an added grumble. I'll add a grumble for you, but then I think it needs to be put in perspective. So I'll add a grumble and then I'm going to defend it.
Grumble it.
All right. My grumble is I watched this too, and they didn't do a side by side. They just showed the new model. So I was looking at it going, this just looks like Overwatch to me.
Yeah, which is a problem when they first announced it because I went, oh, that looks the same. And then when they got into their panels and got into the nitty gritty and did show comparisons, you're like, oh, okay, I can see it. I can see the fidelity jump or there's more polygons here,
which is fine. But which I think you could also read into that reaction as being like, oh, it just looks like Overwatch as a compliment to Overwatch 1. I think Overwatch 1 still looks really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Which, you can go it either way. To me, Overwatch 2, it really, I realized that they kind of had to go back and start over from a systems level to do some of the additions that are coming.
Right.
But as someone who has really relegated himself to like a passive Overwatch consumer at this point, to me, as someone who's not bought in, it's not doing much to make me want to buy back in.
Yeah.
And so I would have loved a side by side. It's like, yeah, show me old Sombras, show me old Baptiste.
I think it's just it's a boring presentation without that, because otherwise we have nothing to compare it to. It's like saying, look how much better this I don't know. Look how much better Quake 3 looks than Quake 2. Well, okay, but you got to show me. You have to say, here's the one, and now here's the other. Like spatial audio, I'm getting really into this music spatial audio stuff in the last few days, the Dolby Atmos mastered music stuff that Apple and others are pushing, and they did a whole bunch of tracks that are like a dude talking, going, all right, we're going to explain to you what the difference is, so you kind of know what you're getting into, and then he would play like I don't know, name any song because they have a ton in there, like a Beatles song, and say, okay, well, here's the original track when it was in mono or stereo or whatever, and you hear it, and he's like, all right, now here's that same track remastered for a modern audience, but still in stereo. Okay, cool. That's mostly what we're hearing today. And then he plays this third track, which is this spatial 3D audio stuff from Dolby. Mind-blowing. Like, mind-blowing. I can't believe how good that stuff sounds. But I'm not entirely sure I would have gotten the full impact without showing me the old thing. So show me the old thing, Aaron, and then show me the new thing is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. That's my added grumble. I think if they had done that, it would have had a bigger impact. Because to me, I'm like, they look good, but not much that different than regular Overwatch to me. But defend it like Summer Games Fest, which like I forgot was happening. It's like a hashtag not E3. Like everything about this being the time of year where let's talk games, it feels a little forced because like E3 isn't happening in its traditional aspect. E3 didn't happen last year.
Right.
Like it just kind of feels like we're beating a traditional drum, the drum of game tradition. Bring it out and beat it because it's summer.
Well,
like this, the whole thing is just kind of messy and it feels like we're doing it just for the sake of it. And so my defense of this is like it ain't BlizzCon. This isn't where Blizzard is typically gets up and goes deep and shows us really cool stuff. This is just, it was, I think the clip on YouTube, let's see, it's 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Yeah. I think this is perfectly fine for a 2 minute and 22 second check-in where you're just like, Aaron Keller, do show and tell. Like if you think about it in that mind, like they're like, hey man, we're done with these models and we think they look cool and we want to show them. And I think it totally works like in that regard. So
yeah, that's fine. I still say, give me an A and B. Give me that. We're good. We're good across the board. 2 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what?
Yeah.
Just focus on one of those characters. Don't even give me two. Just show me the difference between the one and the two.
Yeah.
That's interesting, even if you don't care a thing about Overwatch. It's like interesting technical information that my brain can go, oh, cool, look what they did to do the thing. Now I can see it. Instead, it was just like, I don't know, those look like that looks like Overwatch. So good job. You're making Overwatch. Well done. All right, finally, Battle.net we mentioned is going region free, and it took a long time for that to happen, but go play with your international friends. They're waiting for you, okay? It's in there. It's out there. Go for it. No longer will you have to friend only people who look like you. I don't know what that means. I'm not trying to make it a racial thing. I'm not at all. So instead of trying to dig myself out of that hole, let's dig a new one.
I'm going to sit in the back.
All right, we're gonna have a big discussion topic today in the form of, is Activision really the problem? That's the question I want to address and maybe answer, and maybe not. Maybe we'll just stir this up enough that we'll get some amazing comments and feedback from the listeners who have thoughts of their own.
I'm going to walk that back and YouTube thumbnail this and say the real reason Activision is killing Blizzard.
Well, that's how we get. That's
we
how
are
you
definitely 100% factually going to answer that question in this discussion.
Yeah, if we wanted a ton of YouTube hits, we would probably do that. You and I would be outlined in a nice white border, of each of us on some sort of red background.
I'm sorry, I didn't do my hair, which does make me look younger and trendier.
But we all have to go like. Or look like we're going, looking down at a thing all freaked out. Our faces have to be freaked out. That's another rule. Yeah, put your hands up.
Are we going to start doing, that's the big change to the instance is we are actually going to take a minute at the end of every episode and do some poses for the thumbnail, for the YouTube thumbnails. We hope that you are okay with this.
I hope they're not. Anyway, so I really think it is an interesting question. We're far enough into this entire discussion about Activision's the reason anything ever goes wrong, and when things are going right, we don't give them any credit, but when things are going wrong for Blizzard, we are very quick, myself included, to jump on this bandwagon of, well, it's Activision's fault, it's Bobby Kotick's fault, it's this acquisition's fault, which, by the way, has been in effect since 2008. I'm going to give people a little bit of history on this so that we can address this claim that Activision has encroached further and further into the business process and creative processes of Blizzard, and that this all started the minute they set foot in there in 2008 when they got everything for Vivendi. That's the claim. The history is interesting, and it was fun for me to look some of this stuff up to sort of remind myself how this all went down. It was somewhere right around 2006 where Bobby Kotick reached out to, at the time, Jean-Bernard Lévy, and that's the CEO of the French media conglomerate Vivendi, reaches out to him and you got to understand, at the time, Vivendi's a giant conglomerate, and they have a tiny games division. And that is basically a holding company, a small holding company for what was Sierra Entertainment and Blizzard Entertainment. Blizzard is now a year and a half or so into the raucous success of World of Warcraft, but they're still kind of the Blizzard of old, smaller. You know, they're not. There's no BlizzCon yet. Like it's a small games company that we know from other projects, but this is their big thing, and they're really breaking out and exploding with it. So he reaches out to them, and he's like, I want to have access to a game as successful as this World of Warcraft. We want a successful MMO. Nobody else seems to be able to make one of these, and you have to remember the mindset in 06 is nobody seems to be able to pull this off except for Blizzard. And for this to happen, you'd have to acquire it, not build it himself. So his thinking is, yo, Levy, however you say it, we're going to buy you guys, and we'll merge the two companies together, and you're going to make out like a bandit. But Vivendi only wanted to do it if they kept a majority control in the merged company. That was not what anybody over at Activision wanted. But they came to an agreement. So according to people close to Kotick, some of this information I found, he was concerned about the offer as it would force him to cede control of Activision, not just acquire Blizzard, but also cede control of the current company. And he didn't like that. However, after talking to Blizzard CEO Mike Morhaime, Kotick recognized that Vivendi would be able to give them inroads into growing video game markets in China and other places around the world. And this is about the time where gaming and international are about to create, this is where it starts. About 06, 07 is when we start to hear about what's happening in other parts of the world. And it's way less of a Japan, US, and Europe-centric industry. It's starting to spread. And that's a good thing, but that's, just to give you context about the time. So, back to Kotick. He proposed the merger at the Activision board meeting, which agreed to it. This happened in December of 2007, so we're like a year into this thinking and process. The new company was to be named Activision Blizzard, which it would be, and would retain its central headquarters in California. That was the plan. Bobby Kotick of Activision was announcing this whole thing as happening and named himself president and CEO of the new Activision/Blizzard, company or corporation. On July 8th, 2008, Activision announced to its stockholders it had agreed to this merger, and the very next day, it happened with a transaction all cleared by the FTC. Thank you. I always do this with FEC. Anyway, all approved. No funny business. Nobody thought there was any kind of anti-competitive stuff going on, so it got approved. $18.9 billion, which I had forgotten was the number.
It's staggering.
That's staggering for 2007. Like, I understand it today.
Lucasfilm was purchased for $4 billion.
Yeah.
To put this in perspective.
Not only that, in the gaming perspective, Microsoft just paid 9 or whatever it was, under 10 for, maybe it was 7, whatever it was, for Bethesda, which, by the way, houses a very successful MMO, plus all the rest of Bethesda.
Yes, extremely successful just games on top of
just
having
video games across the board.
Successful MMO.
Yeah. So that's a crazy amount of money, even by today's standards.
You're talking about Fallout 76, by the way, right?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I hear that game's pretty good these days. Everybody who's playing is like, oh, it's
to their credit, they kept working on it.
Yeah, apparently it's all right. They are stripping out that battle royale mode they put in there because that's dumb to even have it in there in the first place. But anyway, $18.9 billion, still a lot of money. But remember, this included Sierra and a bunch of other IPs, properties, and devs that are nothing to do with Blizzard. So this isn't just, that wasn't $18.9 billion for Blizzard. It was for a whole wide range of stuff. A lot of stuff they've never done shit with. They've just squatted on it and done nothing with it. Of course, Blizzard was the main carrot there.
Yeah,
all right.
Sierra was shuttered.
It was, right, which bums me out because they had a lot of stuff I liked. I thought Sierra's...
I saw the Sierra logo was a staple of my childhood.
Yeah. Don't forget, freaking Half-Life 1 was published by Sierra.
They also did the expansions to it.
Oh, right. Blue Shift, or what was it called?
Blue Shift, and what was the soldier one? I really liked that one.
Dirt Bucket. Dirt Bucket Jr. I don't remember.
I'm totally blanking on the one I liked more than Blue Shift. Opposing Force.
Opposing Force. There you go. The first boxed version of Counter-Strike was published by Sierra, and the first.
Yep.
What was the other? Oh, Day of Defeat was another boxed version of it, like a Half-Life mod when they were getting into that. So, big, long history. They had all those cool city builders, their adventure games. Sierra's got this grand tradition, and they just kind of went the minute Activision sucked them up, with a couple of exceptions. So, from the gamer's perspective, it's not till like 2014, 2016 that you hear people very consistently saying things like, you know, claiming Activision wasn't keeping on their side of the room, that anytime anything went bad, you know, it was their fault. It was easy to say things like, or see things like, oh, well, they're changing, charging for mounts now in the store. You got to pay $25 for a mount. It must be Activision. Or, hey, $60 for a boost in World of Warcraft. Thanks, Activision. Like, that's just the easy, low-hanging fruit that gamers tended to. Some of the community would tend to jump for.
Yeah, and, I think it's important. I remember lots of doomsaying when the original merger happened in like 2008. Everyone being like, well, here it goes. We're going, expect an expansion every year until they run it into the ground like your Tony Hawks and your Guitar Heroes.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of that going around at the time.
Yeah.
But it definitely quieted down in retrospective, what I would refer to as relatively quickly. I think because you think about what was going on at the time, like in 2008 when this was finally made official, like Wrath of the Lich King was releasing, World of Warcraft was at its was about to head into its peak subscriber numbers. Like WoW was about to be the most successful it would ever be, with the expansion that a lot of us would still consider to be the best. I think Legion gives it a run for its money, but you know, that's neither here nor there at this point. You know, at that time, like Blizzard was on top.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they were kind of heading into a quiet period.
Yep. We didn't know it,
Wings
but they
of Liberty wasn't out yet. Diablo 3 wasn't out yet. And when they did come out, they didn't really set the world on fire the same way World of Warcraft did. I love both those games.
Yeah.
But
well, they both broke records
World of Warcraft
in various
size release. They were not.
Yeah, they both broke records in various categories. Like, you know, I think Diablo 3 until Cyberpunk was still the fastest and most quantity sold PC game of all time, and it just finally got unseated by that or something. So it's not like these things weren't successes in their own right, but you're right. Like, especially around 2008, there was a feeling that you're flying high, Blizzard. This MMO stuff is real. You're in it to win it. You are dominant, and you'll be at the highest you've ever been. But you got to do some other stuff. And obviously they felt that way because they started working on other stuff. So we had Wings of Liberty coming. That wouldn't happen until 2010. We had Diablo 2 or 3 announced in 2007 at the French. I don't remember what that was. I don't remember the event. But that thing got announced, and it wouldn't be until 2012 until we actually got that game 2 years after Wings of Liberty. That's a long-ass time for those two games. Meanwhile, WoW does well, but has now gone from highest it'll ever go to we're at the tail end of Pandaria before any of this other stuff started happening. And I think for the most part, people still felt pretty good about it. Like, players were seeing a company that was grappling with massive growth, like beyond their dreams, massive growth, and grappling with it from what we could tell on the outside, grappling with it well. Like, it seemed like they had a handle on it. And they were putting out content, and they were making video games. And that's what mattered to us. And only when there'd be a little misstep here or there, we'd go, oh, freaking Activision again. You know, we'd always throw shade their direction. But for me, it wasn't really until I started seeing big names leaving, perhaps the most prominent being Chris Metzen. He announced that in 2007 and was out pretty quickly after that. Or 17, not 7.
I'm about to say that. No, that doesn't sound right.
Give me 10 years off there. But yeah, he leaves, causes a bit of a stir when that happened. You could argue he left at one of the best possible times to leave. He left at the height of Legion's success, his last major expansion he had a hand in, the height of Overwatch's subsequent release and success. Again, a huge part of his DNA is in that game. And so from a lot of perspectives, we were like, well, what else? You know, if you're going to leave and you're Mets and you're going to retire early, this would be the time to do it. but there was always a little sneaking thing in the back of your head going, I don't know, it feels like things aren't perfect. Something's weird, and then we, interviews with Metzen later would sort of confirm that things were weird, not necessarily with the company in some nasty way, but in like there's a maturation process happening over there, and they had hit a certain level where everyone's really tired, stressed, done a ton, some of them in very key positions, and they needed a freaking break. And that was kind of the story. Lately, though, let's say from about HTC is gone, Heroes is the redheaded stepchild, we're firing a whole bunch of people, and Diablo Immortal was a massive PR misstep in terms of what we knew of our players at BlizzCon and beyond.
Yeah, and we're of course talking generally here too, right? Like you and I don't really agree that Immortal deserved the hate that it got.
No, I don't.
But it was not. I don't think it was messaged correctly.
That's all that was. That's pure messaging, and there was definitely a way around it. And my heart goes out to him a little bit in terms of that being the year where Morhaime sets foot on that stage for the last time. They're trying to grapple with that. They got a new guy in charge. You've got, this major figurehead of the company, the founder of the thing, leaving. It's probably difficult to make sure you're perfectly on message with every other thing you're doing, including an announcement of a mobile game. I think they could have worked. I think they could have done some stuff that would have just fixed that whole problem. We wouldn't even be talking about it. They just needed to do it.
If 2016 was like kind of a second coming of like a high for Blizzard, which I think it was, because we had both the release of Overwatch and the release of World of Warcraft Legion that same year.
Yeah.
Within a few months of each other. Overwatch was May and Legion was what, August? Yes, August, end of August. Okay, so a little bit further apart, but still,
sure.
Both those games were out before BlizzCon 2016.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a banner year for Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years after the official launch of Hearthstone, which was also a runaway success.
Yeah.
2018 was everything came back down to earth. BFA had just released not the best remembered World of Warcraft expansion. It was a quiet BlizzCon with Diablo Immortal being what closed out the opening ceremony.
Yeah. It felt weird and disjointed and not like maybe the messaging they wanted. So I can chalk all that up to just, well, you had a bad year or you had a bad moment or it's fine, whatever, we move on. There were a lot of things about that year I really enjoyed, but I'm also biased because I got to be on stage and that was really awesome and it was like a high point for me. But I knew in the back of my head people weren't super happy with the expansion at that stage. So we're up there Q&Aing about a game that people are kind of grumbling about. And that's difficult sort of position to be in. Bringing Metzen out had two effects. One was to really make that a highlight for a lot of people. And it also illustrated that we missed him and his kind of figureheadness at the company. I think. A lot of people tell me that anyway. And, that was all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, man, I've always been a big fan of Metzen. He's felt like, as someone who didn't play my first damn pen and paper role-playing game until I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And instead played a lot of Blizzard games. Like Metzen felt like my dungeon master for like my formative years.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think a lot of people do. And I think it's a deserved title. He would say, no, I'm just, whatever. But he's humble about it, but he really did have that kind of impact. And he had become this image, this symbol of what we all sort of perceived the passion of Blizzard to be.
That humbleness only makes me still like him.
Yeah, like him more. Yeah, exactly.
I get the same vibe from Metzen as to fan out for a moment as I do. Like I remember spending a lot of time going to punk shows growing up, and the bands would just hang out after the show, and you would just shoot the shit with them, and they would just want to talk about other albums that they're excited about, and it was like talking to a human being and not a rock star. And that's how Metzen feels. And I think that has only grown the people that dig what he does. Because he doesn't come off as conceited or as full of himself.
And I'd be great if there were 10 more exactly like him ready to just step up to the next promotion and take his place. But, we're in a reality here and different people, different personalities, different approaches, all those things play into this and it's just tricky. So we are now at what is perhaps the high point, I would say, of discussion about huge departures, massive companies coming from those departures that are all separate from Blizzard and now are, potentially going to compete in that space. Bad press. BlizzChung just won. Consolidation, firings, layoffs, closing offices in Europe, for example, and just kind of a general sense that the quote-unquote old Blizzard no longer works there. That's where everyone's head has been, or at least I feel like there's been a general overall in the community feeling of that. There are plenty of people who are just like, I'm just playing WoW, I don't know what you're talking about. I get it. Those people, I wish I was you. I wish you could just do that. But given our perspective on things and our enjoyment of like talking about the bigger issues, this stuff is definitely present for me.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, I share that thought. Like, boy, it would be nice if I just like played this game and didn't think about that stuff. But at the same time, like this stuff interests me. Like I find it fascinating, like the rise and fall of public opinion around any game studio. Blizzard obviously being the one that's closest to my heart because it's their games set me on this path that allowed me to like sit in my home and talk about games and keep a roof over my head as a result.
Sure.
So like it is fascinating, even if at times it does get exhausting. I mean, there was I told us the personal note. I said this to Kyle recently because we were going into Heroes of the Storm show a couple weeks ago, and it was Heroes of the Storm's 6th anniversary. We've been doing the show for 7 years, but for they were in tech alpha for over a year.
Yeah, it was a long time.
So like, it was the 6th anniversary very recently for the official release, like coming out of tech alpha of Heroes of the Storm. Yeah. And there was no anniversary event whatsoever. They didn't even add like a new spray because there's like a 2-year spray, a 3-year spray, a 4-year spray. It's literally just like the number in a Heroes of the Storm style.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. And I told Kyle, I was like, man, I don't want to have a take on this. Like, I just don't care. Like, Heroes has had a hard time. The fact that it still gets updates, more updates than most other Blizzard games, is a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the give a shits to to be mad about this.
Right.
Like,
yeah. You gotta have a bad case of the give a shits.
That comes with it.
Yeah.
Like, there's times where I'm definitely exhausted talking about these kind of things. But at the end of the day, I'd be lying bold face to you if I told you it didn't interest the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, same here. And so, but the question, so now we get to the bigger question: are these changes both real and perceived? Okay, some I'm sure, are just perceived by players, and we don't have the insight, so we don't know. But real and perceived, are these more about the passage of time, lack of new games, just getting to be an older developer, or is this Activision's fault? Like, is this the slow eroding corporate needling that everyone claims it is, or a lot of people claim it is? I don't want to be absolutist on this discussion, but because there's plenty of opinions, but yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about the Kat Bailey IGN article.
We did. Yeah.
About a month ago now. If anyone hasn't seen this, it's called The Inside Story of Blizzard's Departures and a Company at a Crossroads. It's on IGN. It got a ton of play, especially in our circle for obvious reasons. But if you want to go back a few episodes, Scott, you and I already had a discussion about this, but a quote from this that really, really stuck with me, which was, if you're making the money, you set the culture. And
yeah,
Blizzard isn't bringing in the money right now. There's essentially like a three major company pillar that is Activision Blizzard, and there's just one name left out of it, and it's King.
Yeah.
There's Activision, there's King, and there's Blizzard. And Blizzard's making the least amount of money of those three organizations.
Yeah. King makes gobs of money, and they don't talk about it. I mean, they talk about it in shareholder meetings and junk like that, but this is not a thing you promote or talk about or make a deal out of. But meanwhile, it's back there. People are matching 3 gems and just raking cash, just raking it in the King side. And it blows my mind how much money that makes. And it makes sense from a corporate perspective why you would look at that and say, well, the big one with that's like stuck as part of our name, that is the most venerable studio of all time and everyone knows their name, Blizzard, is the least performer. We have to do something about that. I see why that comes up in a corporate environment. That's 100% something I would expect. So my theory is, if that comes up a lot, that can be a problem, in that can erode at the creative underpinnings of what made Blizzard in the first place. Because if your expectations are you have to be the top performer here, or at the very least equal, then you're going to have to do things that are not slow and polished and careful and cancel it if it's not good enough and find the fun and all those principles that Blizzard's based on. Those don't apply so well when you're just like, we need to hit this quarter's blah, 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 blah. We need to beat King to the quarter 3, blah, blah, blah. Like those sorts of goals don't align with the creative context that Blizzard had been in the past. Now, Blizzard's almost always been owned by somebody else, or at least funded in part or invested in a way that made them survive by somebody else. None of this was new at the time. A lot of people think that Activision came in 2008, bought them or merged with them and walked away, and that was the first time Blizzard ever experienced that. It's not true. In their entire run as a company, somebody's had something to do with them. Davidson and whatever it was called, that firm was involved very early on. Like, there is no Blizzard without this outside help and that kind of structure. However, in all those other scenarios, they were the product and they were left to build what made them great. In this particular case, they're now part of a much bigger apparatus. And so I get the idea of thinking that that sort of stuff meddles with the DNA that is Blizzard, because how can it not? And I'm not even saying it's dastardly or horrendous or bad. I mean, it's bad just simply from a I wish they could do what they want to do perspective, but this is the bed they sleep in. What else are they going to do? They're a massively publicly traded company. This is that world. We like it or not, that's that world. So my argument is that, yeah, this has some impact on it. I'm not sure it's all of the impact. I think a lot of it is just we're a really old company now, and it's not the same as it used to be. And some of those early creative minds moved on a long time ago. We just didn't know who they were because they weren't, big public people like we would get later in the company's history. And so they're just at a weird crossroads, and a bunch of the olds leave and a bunch of the youngs come in, and you hope you make great stuff. I mean, that's all possible too. I think these two things can kind of coexist as possibilities as to why we feel this collective unrest in the Blizzard community.
It's like artistic integrity and quality of employee life is at odds with a big, broadly painted picture of capitalism. Like, it's just I that's why I come back to the if you make the money you set the culture quote. Like, is it just that was a part of that article that just really drove it home to me and made a lot of sense, especially because that article in particular, the IGN piece, takes a historical view. We're going way further back in this talk, which I like, and I'm finding really interesting because that article kind of picks up with like the launch of Hearthstone.
Right.
Yeah, I believe Bailey even refers to Hearthstone Overwatch as like a mini renaissance for Blizzard, which I agree with.
Interesting. Yeah, I would.
But that's what the article really focuses on post Overwatch.
Yeah.
What the hell happened? Why does it seem like there's a lot more corporate meddling going on?
Right.
And kind of. It doesn't come out and say it, but it kind of, definitely feels like they're saying, well, there is more corporate meddling going on, and it's because Blizzard isn't bringing in as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, to me, it's a good hypothesis. It makes a lot of sense. And again,
part of it is if you're going to make a game like Overwatch doesn't have, it's a retail product. This isn't a free-to-play game with a big battle pass system and all of that. Yes, you can spend real money and get skins and all of that. So they have an alternate method of subsidizing that game as it continues on, but it's not really a game as a service. And everything it competes with is these days. And you could say everything from Fortnite all the way over to just standard, matchmaking in a popular deathmatch game. These are the competition of Overwatch, and they have all entrenched themselves in some pretty serious monetization systems. And Blizzard has just not done that. And because they haven't done that, I think they've done that to their credit. Those things have not overrun the core of their games. The games themselves, the closest they got to screwing that up was Diablo 3's Auction House, but they got rid of it, and I think rightly so, because it was bad for the game. And any other company would have just kept that shit in there and kept wheedling with it until nobody wanted to play their game anymore. So I have respect for them doing that, but some of that pressure is, well, we got to make money. We can't just make games. They have to be blockbuster games. That's where that company is now. And that's why I think these guys all splintering off, doing Dreamhaven, doing War Chief, doing Frost Giant, doing all these spin-off studios, the unifying message seems to be from all of them that we're now going to get back to what we did before. It's all about creativity, output, smart developers working together, collaborative ideas, the best games possible. None of them are going, can't wait to do that and then step up to another acquisition and then be a public company again and then deal with all the bullshit up here. None of them are talking about that.
It certainly seems like it from the outside looking in, and certainly looks like it from the marketing messages that have come out of places like Dreamhaven. It certainly seems like the goal is to return to the lofty kind of development behavior and practices of Blizzard of old,
right,
which was take as much time as you want, cancel games if you have to, even if it sounds borderline out of this world, like with StarCraft Ghost. And Titan for that matter.
Right.
Sorry, I just really want StarCraft Ghost.
I do too. I want Ghost. You know what else I want? I want that shooter they were making in StarCraft.
That's what I want. Yeah, more than anything. It's like, yeah.
Like Battlefield. They showed that Battlefield trailer the other day. My brain immediately went, "Oh yeah, Blizzard was making a Battlefield-like thing in StarCraft." Oh, okay.
I would have played the living hell out of that.
I would have never quit. I would have never gotten out. I would have just spent all day in there every day. Like, and I know that they could have made that work, but I also know that they were probably feeling so much pressure to make a game that was just, pumping $15 out of everybody every month and it would go on forever. And they were more thinking, well, I want to make a game that I want to play. And I just, maybe those two things just don't jive the bigger you get. I mean, is this an Activision Blizzard? Is Activision Blizzard the same as EA and BioWare? That's my question. Like, are they even fair comparisons? Because BioWare, this beloved RPG developer, everybody loves them. They amazing. And then they come along and they get acquired, and that acquisition means lots and lots of money to make what they want to make. So they make like Mass Effect. Mass Effect is amazing. And other stuff in between, but we'll just focus on that. EA made a lot of money from Mass Effect. Mass Effect was a giant success. But you could even see toward the tail end of that series, they were trying to force in this weird battle readiness thing, which had...
Well, you don't get excited about buying Mountain Dew cans to up your battle readiness in Mass Effect 3?
Exactly. That kind of stuff started...
Was it Galactic Readiness?
Yeah, or whatever it was called. I can't remember what it was called.
I haven't gotten to 3 yet in the remake. I got sidetracked with Burning Crusade.
Right. But like those things, they come into they start leaking into the system, and that's when you start to see the cracks and go, what are they doing over there? Okay, well, whatever. And then project after project after project gets weird. The doctors leave, go and do their own thing. Rumors are it wasn't pleasant when they left, and now those teams are spread out in weird places, and they're trying to force the Frostbite engine into everything, including BioWare products, and that's a whole other acquisition of DICE. And they have all of this mush going on, and I think there are definitely differences between these two situations, but we're kind of left with the same problem, and that is too big for your own good, can't make the creative decisions anymore, everything has a financial choice on it. And here we are. Now, can they turn that around? Can they redeem that? I don't know. See, that to me is the bigger unanswerable question. Can you No Man's Sky Blizzard is what I'm asking at this stage.
To a certain degree, I'm not sure it matters if they can or not.
Yeah.
We've had this talk before, but I think in recent years it's for fans that used to hold Blizzard in higher regard. I think the recent years have been tough in terms of like making peace with your fandom, because I think we've just been watching Blizzard, which many of us kind of held in a certain esteem and saw as the exception to the standard video game development practices, and just become another video game publisher,
right?
That needs to put out some games,
and that fiddles with our concept of magic that we perceived. The thing that set them apart
to
and
me,
made
I think
them
that's
different.
so explicitly tied to the personalities that we may or may not. Maybe we shouldn't be tying so directly to it, but it is. I think it's one and the same, right? Because if you don't work there, which you and I have not,
right,
we're only privy to what is shown to us and what is leaked by like Jason Schreier. But that's all we have to work on, and so we are attached to the Metzens and to the Morheims And we are also attached to the legends, the legends of Ghost was in development for this long and they just killed it. And they dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into Titan and they nixed it. And out of the ashes came Overwatch. Those are legends. Those live in our mind. That makes us give more of a care than we do about the 17 millionth FIFA release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a fiction entirely because I think it was true at one point, but I have this mythology in my head that says everyone at Blizzard there's mostly artists there, and they inspire each other to make amazing things. The engineers are artists in their own way, but they feed off these other artists and they make these things, and sometimes they make a thing, and if it's not perfect, they're all willing to say, no, we're not going to put substandard content into the world. We're going to put that away. So that's one of those legends, right? You're like, wow, look at the balls on those guys. They'll use Morheim's credit card to get them all payroll met and everything. But
you're describing Blizzard Entertainment as if it was David Lynch. Like, this is crap. I'm not going to work on it anymore.
Kind of, yeah. Like they had this thing, and then they also had this thing of like, but when they do commit to the project, when it is finished and done, nobody polishes that game like they do. Nobody ships with less bugs. Nobody has a better, prettier, blah, 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 whatever the compliments are. And then those things become bastion standards of their genre. Diablo will be legendary, and it is. Freaking Overwatch is a major thing in shooters. World of Warcraft, bar none, the most important thing to ever happen in online multiplayer massive world gaming, RPG or not. Like, it's an amazing, massive thing that affected everything from then on. So none of that stuff can be denied, but we also have these really crazy pictures in our head of why it happened and the heroic effort it took to get it and all of that. And I feel like once you strip that stuff away and you just start to see J. Allen Brack being very careful about what he says and, tiptoeing around issues about politics and international trade and everything else that goes with that and all that other stuff, you start to go, oh, was it just luck or a corporate machine taking advantage of really talented people? Like, you start to question it, and I understand why some gamers turn that into straight up anger. I get it, because you're committed, you're sold, you bought into the religion of Blizzard, and in some ways the tenants were good, and we loved them.
My wedding band is engraved inside to say Soulbound, to give you an idea. Katie's is too.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time when we were first getting to know each other playing WoW together. Like, it is. I mean, you and I couldn't possibly be more biased in this regard. Like,
yeah, how can we not?
We've turned our obnoxious to some fandom into a career.
Yeah.
It's all these things. So like, yeah, it does not surprise me when people get heated or angry. It bums me out because I don't want to see people harassed, no matter how much we may think Warlord sucks or BFA or whatever it is you happen to be mad about.
Right.
For me, the most recent thing is I still want my money back in Warcraft 3 Reforged. I thought that game was butt.
Yeah, it sucked.
But it's a lot. And like I said, for me, it just comes back to, I think, Blizzard has just been slowly kind of devolving into just another video game studio and not a special video game studio.
Right. It's in the way that I want to know, like, back to the BioWare connection. I would like to know what they're doing, and I want to see what the next Dragon Age.
They're staffing up is what they're doing, man.
They are staffing up. And in Dragon Age, Dragon Age 4 or whatever it'll be, I'm super jazzed about that. Like, I can't wait to see what it is. But do I have the same?
I'm talking about Blizzard. Blizzard staffing up.
Oh yeah, Blizzard.
We had these. Yeah, another thing that we really haven't talked about were the layoffs, which were big headlines right after Morhaime left, and a lot of those headlines seem to forget that there were major layoffs under Morhaime, which is always worth pointing out.
It's true.
But in the wake of it, there's a lot of hiring going on for development positions, which this is kind of my last thought, and I don't think we've really gotten into this. I started to hint at it when I was talking about, like, let's focus on what Blizzard was when the merger happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Blizzard was an absolute juggernaut.
Yeah.
WoW was at its highest point. 2 years later, in 2010, they would peak with their WoW subscribers. They would hit that 12 million number on the tail end of Wrath of the Lich King, and they would never hit that point again.
Yeah.
So like those first 2 years of the merger, Blizzard couldn't have been firing on more cylinders.
Yeah.
And yet I was hinting at it before. It was like they were still going into a bit of a lull.
Yeah.
You know, StarCraft 2 was a few years out. Diablo 3 was even a few more years out, and they weren't going. And they, while successful games by really any metric, they weren't World of Warcraft size.
Right.
The difference now is we're in a lull, and there isn't really like Hearthstone. As far as like all signs point to, Hearthstone is the game that's like kind of paying the bills.
Right. Right.
And they're a ways out from major releases, and that's, I think, the big difference, because I think you can look at 2008 and say, yeah, they were in a lull similar to where they are now. The difference was World of Warcraft was one of the biggest games in the world.
They also weren't 5,000 people worldwide. They were still pretty much located in Irvine, and it was still an office of a few hundred people, and that was a lot for them, you know, based on before WoW, they were an office of what, 50, 60 people. Like, we're talking about massive growth in a very short amount of time. But yeah, it's a similar lull. It's just the stakes are bigger. You know, it's all bigger now.
Exactly. And yeah, to me as a outsider looking in, I go, it's just unrealistic. You can't bottle lightning twice. You expect them to have another game to the level of World of Warcraft that's like pulling in $15 a month from 12 million people? Do you know how absolutely unrealistic an expectation that is? But it's a publicly traded company.
Yeah. And today, that is even more impossible. That lightning is not ready to be struck again, because not in today's environment. There's just too much to play. I don't know how anyone does that. Nobody can look at 12 million and feel comfortable about that being their goal. I don't know how they do it. And they didn't either. Morheim thought they'd hit 1 million max ever. He was like, man, I mean, EverQuest barely do 400,000. Why do we think we're going to do more than 1 million? He was wrong. He was dead wrong.
Basing it off of the trail that had already been blazed, which was EverQuest. And
right.
if you were, you know, making assumptions based on the success of EverQuest, which was considered a very successful game, I can absolutely see how you would come to that conclusion.
Yeah, for sure.
The X factor was the fact that they made a really good MMO.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they fully intended Titan to be that, but man, the stories around Titan. There needs to be a book one day. And I will read the shit out of that book.
Somebody please spill all of the Titan beans.
Because I've got a bean here and there, but I don't know the whole story. I want to know everything there is to know about that mess.
I need a can, please. I need a can.
Well, to close this out, Captain Logan in the chat room said something I thought was interesting. Are we as fans willing to call out Blizzard for missteps, or are we? Why are we so quick to lay blame on Activision? I think it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other at this point.
I mean, Bobby Kotick is a soulless individual that is just factually unlikable.
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of soft feelings for mega millionaires and billionaires for a lot of reasons. But in this particular case, you know, Blizzard makes a misstep. These days, it's almost impossible not to question, well, did that come from the top, meaning Activision, because it kind of that's how this thing's run now. So I think if we are blaming Activision or Blizzard, you're kind of blaming the same company now. And we got to start getting into that mode of thinking, or else what we're saying is, oh, well, they're still separated. There's still these two separate things. We should go after Blizzard when it's their fault. Well, I'm not so sure it's all that separated anymore. You know, they may all be in different offices, and some of the people over there are going to maybe argue with me internally. They still value that culture, and they should. You know, Blizzard established an amazing culture, and on the ground, by a lot of accounts, it's still an amazing culture. But it's definitely different, and I would love your feedback, everybody at home. Send your emails to theinstance@gmail.com and tell us your take on all this. We would love to hear it. All right, we got this.
Mr. Johnson, I have questions.
We got a quick email from a listener named John who wrote in and said, hello, Instance Podcast. Again, he used the address theinstance@gmail.com. He says, quick question regarding the future of the Warcraft universe as a game. Do you think Blizzard will ever branch out of the Warcraft genre into other styles of games, such as single-player RPGs, other RTSs, or will it remain in the MMO style forever, apart from potential remakes of the older Warcraft games? Love listening to your show, and to the core. Keep it up and good work, says John. Well, thank you, John. He also mentioned Core. People, you may really want to check out Core. We do lots of rad stuff on that show, and it's more like full industry stuff. So if you like even the taste of what we're doing here as we focus in on, instance style topics, you might like it even more when we branch out. It's a great sister show, so go check it out. Anyway, I mean, we've talked about this before, right? We'd love to see like a Skyrim-style single-player RPG set in the Warcraft universe.
This is your number one most requested thing in the history of the instance since I have become a permanent fixture.
Yeah, and before. Like I've always said, if they came along and made a really cool, high-fidelity, current-gen looking, RPG set in that world, and I'm some lowly orc or human or whatever it is, whatever story you want to tell, I'm in. I'm so in. But I see, again, that doesn't sound on paper like one that has like permanent money generation. It just is either it's a great game that sells a ton of at once and then you wait for sequels. Like it's the old way of doing games. I don't know if Blizzard's interested, or Activision Blizzard is interested in doing that. But if they did, holy shit. Like, holy shit. I would play that game till my face popped. I'd be so into it. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, do you have, like, what would your big wish be if you could just take the Warcraft stuff and pull it out and go somewhere else with it? Where would it go for Garrett?
I just want that StarCraft shooter. Like, I want that so bad.
Yeah, I do too.
I like my soul is still hurting.
Yeah.
From learning of that game's existence in the same paragraph that I learned it was canceled. Like that's that was hurtful.
That was hard. Ugh.
I mean, we've talked about the Magic Wand before. I would love just a completely from the ground up complete remake of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. Like if you're gonna, everyone wants graphics. A sequel, but why not just modern
graphics? Update the combat, make it more of an action MMO.
Yeah, why not just take WoW and go? All right, we did it, you guys. We're pushing 20 years on this thing. Let's hit the reset and make the modern game that we want to make. Why not? Lots of games do this. Why can't an MMO do this? Doesn't have to be a sequel. Doesn't have to be,
yeah,
two things.
In terms of, I think the lever branch, I think they will. I mean, Warcraft is a big IP. It's gonna have a long tail. I think Warcraft as a brand is going to outlive World of Warcraft. Like it makes sense that one day World of Warcraft we're gonna be done with it.
Yeah,
there's gonna be no new World of Warcraft at some point. I don't know when it's gonna be or how few hairs are gonna be left on my head, but yeah, I think eventually they're gonna take stock of it and now go, all right, what's next? What's the next thing we do with Warcraft?
Well, it actually just hit me. So maybe that's the plan this whole time. We always wonder where classic ends, right? Because it's eventually classic is modern. So
Wrath.
Well, maybe, but why don't they just? Here's what they do: they keep stacking on classic, and then at some point, let's say it's Wrath. Right after Wrath, they go, that's going to continue to add new expansions just like the old days. And we're going to just keep that clock returning, and you can stay in old servers, move to new servers, whatever you want. You can just keep playing around in this big, long pantheon of successive sequels or expansions in World of Warcraft. But now we're making WoW 2.0, and it's new WoW, and it's the whole new game, and you can play Classic, which just happens to be Warcraft the way it was, and now over here, we got this other thing. Like, maybe that's a launching point for them. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe that's what
possibly,
they do.
Yeah. The only thing mentioned here that I think is like completely off the table for me is like I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell of another Warcraft RTS.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like I'd be happy to be wrong because I would play it, but yeah, I think again I come back to the from recognizable names at Blizzard that I know, they ain't there anymore as far as the RTS torch carriers.
Nope. They took that torch somewhere else. Frost Giant and Dreamhaven and a couple other places, and they are no longer in the torch business, turns out. They are in the making games for somebody else business. And
yeah, I hope I'm looking forward to Dustin Browder's first Dreamhaven shooter, Smarbraft Battlefield.
Smarbraft. Brilliant. I'm with Benjamin in the chat. Warcraft Tactics. I'd play the living shit out of that. So bring it on. My most exciting thing from yesterday's thing was from the showcase was that what's it called? Shit. The tactics game, not Metal.
Oh, Metal Slug.
Metal Slug Tactics.
Dude, that game looks great. I've never been a huge Metal Slug fan. Nothing against it. It just kind of missed me in my childhood. But I want to play that.
That is
today.
Ripped right from my teens. I loved Metal Slug. I don't even like the games that much, but I just love how animated and the sprites are so rad. Just such a cool thing.
Always liked the look of it, even though not sure I ever played it.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. And also, for Fingers, a good point too. Make a single player RTS and take all the balancing out. Just have it be fun. I'm all for that too. Just go somewhere different, Blizzard. You don't have to make WoW forever. Hopefully that answers your question, John, and gives you some ideas. Other people out there, if you've got thoughts and feelings on what John had to say, or any other kind of feedback or thoughts, send them to here. The email address is send them here to the email address theinstance@gmail.com.
And you have here at gmail.com. Wow, that's impressive.
It is impressive.
You must have gotten right on there.
Yeah, we had to get the because someone else had it, those bastards. Someone else had theinstance.net or .com, so we had to get net. And it's fine. It was a long time ago. It's 2006. What are you going to do? Garrett, before we get out of here, do you have anything happening right now on the A-Move side that you would like people to know about or consume?
Oh, yes. We got a bunch of previews of what's going to be happening in the next Heroes of the Storm patch this week. And so you should go listen to Into the Nexus, the podcast I still do about Heroes of the Storm, the game that still gets updates. Yep. That I do with my lovely buddy Kyle Ferguson, who you may also know from There Will Be Dungeons.
Oh, yeah. He's great. He's currently DMing our current campaign, and he's killing it. He's doing a great job. I hear a sneaky rumor that a certain Garrett Weinzer will be joining us soon in a guest appearance.
What are you talking about? I have no idea why these D20s are on my desk here.
Sneaky.
What are you talking about?
I'm looking forward to it.
No clue.
Here's my guess. My guess is that you will be on the show, but where I lose all my guessing is I have no idea what kind of character you would roll or how you're going to play it. So
I don't know what you're talking about. I just have this pen and paper here and multiple die just because they make me feel nice inside.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I saw something in D&D Beyond where I could tell you were going to be joining a thing or any of that. I didn't see any of this.
Yeah. Did you say that 100% was just trusting the link. I ain't done shit in there yet.
I haven't looked either. I haven't really looked, nor would I, because I kind of want to be surprised. But anyway, if you want more of that, check out whether or not Garrett knows it or doesn't know it. If he's on or he isn't, check out There Will Be Dungeons on weekends. Details are up on frogpants.com. And I think that's probably going to do it for us, you guys. Thanks so much for being here. We'll have another big topic and some more reveals about changes coming to the show next week. In the meantime, please send your support to us at theinstance.net. It's a place for you to sign up and do cool things and get rad stuff. That's theinstance.net. Become an Instance Plus member today. And what else is going on? Well, I guess it's not. We're getting really close to shipping the Rock Runners game. So if you supported that Kickstarter for the tabletop card game that I made, we submitted the last piece of art like today. So after editing and proofs happen, we're off to the printers, like right on schedule, and I couldn't be more excited. So watch for details on that coming up soon. Follow Garrett at Garrett Art on Twitter. You can find me at Scott Johnson and the show at Instance Show. And of course, more shows like this at frogpants.com. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
We did it. Well done.
Did you make new